welcome to Lunchtime News here on TV1. For the News First team, I'm Naveksha Gunasekara. Let's start off with a look at your headlines.
Generator 3 at Norachole reactivated. Medical students attacked in Ragama, 1 suspect arrested. 9 suspects arrested under the Prevention of Terrorism Act released. Did a malfunctioning signal claim 4 lives in Bursa?
Afternoon, the Norachole power plant's third generator that generates 270 megawatts of power was reactivated again last night. The power plant had faced a breakdown on Monday, just hours after being reactivated.
The third generator at the Norachole power plant that can generate 270 megawatts of power had been reactivated after almost a month yesterday. The barge-mounted power plant at the Colombo port had run out of fuel to generate electricity, causing 60 megawatts to be lost from the national grid. The Sapugaskanda A power plant that generates 54 megawatts of power and the Sojit's power generating plant in Kalanithissa that generates 130 megawatts of power are also inactive. The national grid has lost about 514 megawatts of power in total, as several thermal power plants are inactive at present. Sri Lanka's total power demand had been recorded at 2,418 megawatts last night. Thermal power plants generate 51.2% of the demand, while the remaining 48.8% is covered through renewable energy. Water levels in the Castlereagh and Mausekale reservoirs that are the main contributors for hydropower are also declining. Now the Ceylon Electricity Board says solar and wind power would be purchased from the private sector. Minister of Power Gamini Lokuge said more than 50 investors are to be chosen for this purpose. He added that Sri Lanka expects solar and wind power plants to contribute up to 1,000 megawatts of power. The minister noted that power would be purchased from the private sector for 6 months.
The fuel for the barge-mounted power plant at the port is enough for only 3 days. The Kalanithissa power plant will run out of fuel by tomorrow. The situation at hydropower plants are worse. Who should be responsible for this? Obtaining power from Norachole power plant is a farce. 3 parties are making contradicting statements. They impose power cuts on the same day they meet the president. Although the power crisis is affecting the people, for some it is a money-making venture.
Farmers associations have highlighted several issues in the mechanism to compensate farmers for their lost harvests.
If we used to reap a harvest of 100 bundles from an acre, now it has reduced to 40 or 50 bundles as we used organic fertilizer. If the harvest was 1 million tons, now it stands at 500,000 tons. We know that prices increase if there is a shortage. The government has said they will provide a compensation of 20,000 rupees for an acre. They say they have a so-called professional movement called Viatmaga.
මේ ආණ්ඩුවට අර වියත් මග අර මග මේ මග ගමේ මිනිස්සු නම් ඕකට කියන්නේ කසල මග කියලා. ඔය මිනිස්සු මේ මහමු බුද්ධිමත් මිනිස්සු මේ උපදෙස් දෙන අර බට්ටාර බමුණෝ ටික අක්කරයකට
We spent 24,000 rupees on cultivation. Therefore the government must buy paddy from us at 120 rupees a kilo.
රුපියල් 120ට වී ටික ගන්න වැඩපිළිවෙලක් අනිවාර්යෙන් අවශ්‍යයි.
Has the agriculture minister fulfilled his promises? The government and the agriculture minister should avoid using the trade minister as a cover for this crisis.
Various views are being expressed in the political sphere on the economic crisis in the country.
What is the government going to do now to cover the budget deficit? What is the borrowing limit approved by Parliament? 300,000 bundles of 10 million rupees. Once this amount is also added, the entire debt by the end of this year will amount to 2.1 million bundles of 10 million rupees. If you are suffering this much after obtaining a loan of 1.8 million bundles of 10 million rupees, imagine how much suffering we'll have to endure by the end of this year once another 3 is added to it.
එක පැත්තකින් මූල්‍ය කළමනාකරණයේ තියෙන
Due to misappropriation of funds, the country is facing a foreign currency crisis. On the other hand, the country has fallen to a level where loans cannot be paid. Then the country is facing a situation where it cannot breach the budget deficit. The crisis is aggravating as the government failed to identify solutions and instead adopted temporary measures to address the problem.
අද වඩාත් මේ ක්ෂේත්‍ර අධ අර්බුදයට ගිහිලා තියෙනවා.
Anyone who has studied up to O-levels will understand that when we print more money, the value of the money will reduce and inflation will rise. However, Ajit Niwat Kabra does not understand that. The highest amount of money was printed during the last couple of years. We can predict that this will increase and the value of rupee will hit the rock bottom.
Samaki Janabalawege MP Dr. Harsha De Silva commented on certain remarks expressed by Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa in an interview with a newspaper recently.
Minister Basil had said there is no issue in obtaining money through the Undial system to repay loans and to find dollars required by the country. He says he had done this by visiting Peta with a senior official named Sumit Abesinghe. But Sumit Abesinghe has never told anything wrong. Yesterday, Funding Minister G.L. Piris had said Minister Basil had not said anything like that. This raises the questions of whether the paper had published something out of their own imagination. But they have published the question and answer of the interview. The gravity of this situation is such that no one knows where the government is heading.
In more headline-making news, the Colombo Chief Magistrates Court has ordered the release of 9 prisoners detained under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. Prison spokesperson Chandan Ekanaika said one suspect was released on 2 surety bails of 5 million rupees each. The suspects had been detained at the Colombo Magazine prison. The prison spokesperson said the detainees are still being held in custody as they failed to meet the bail conditions. In more local news, a petition banner seeking the pardon of former MP Ranjan Ramanayake on Independence Day was signed in Valigama today.
Signatures were obtained on a petition banner seeking the pardon of former MP Ranjan Ramanayake on Independence Day. The Samagi Janabalawege's organizer, Rahan Jayavikrama, was present.
Everyone, including artists, have not joined hands seeking presidential pardon for Ranjan Ramanayake as a politician, but as an artist. That is why we have all gathered here. We are requesting the president to grant pardon to this artist on the Independence Day.
9 foreign envoys presented credentials to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa yesterday.
7 ambassadors and 2 consul generals handed over their credentials to the president. They are from Denmark, Estonia, Pakistan, Gambia, Kazakhstan, the Philippines, Austria, Iceland and Israel. The President's media division said the Pakistani High Commissioner is based in Sri Lanka, but the Philippine ambassador is based in Bangladesh, while the envoy from Bangladesh and other countries are based in India.
Drifting your attention to more headline-making news. Police say 4 students of the medical faculty at the Ragama University were injured in an attack this morning.
Police said 3 students are receiving treatment at the Ragam hospital, while another is at the Negombo hospital. The attack on the students, who were in their 4th year, had taken place at the boys' hostel. The students said about 15 people who arrived in 2 vehicles had carried out the assault.
They have left a car behind. They came on 2 vehicles. This is a business card that has fallen from the vehicle. The person's name is D.K. Samarathunga. He's from the personal staff of Honorable MP Arundhika Fernando of the Puttalam district. They came at 3 this morning. We caught one attacker and handed him over to the police. About 15 people came here with poles.
The vehicle is in the custody of the Ragama police. Attempts by Newsfirst to contact MP Arundhika Fernando for a comment failed.
A protest is being staged calling for the safety of nurses. The protesters say pregnant nurses are increasingly at a threat of contracting COVID-19.
All Ceylon Nurses Association says COVID-19 cases are rising among nurses. They point out that more than 500 nurses had been infected across the country. More than 200 nurses were from the Colombo National Hospital. Nurses are now protesting, demanding healthcare and special holidays for expectant nurses. The protest is being held opposite the Colombo National Hospital.
2 people have been arrested for attempting to smuggle foreign currency out of the country today. Customs spokesperson Sudata Silva said authorities had seized 46,000 euros from the luggage of the 2 passengers. The Narcotics Control Unit of Sri Lanka Customs said they had attempted to travel to Dubai on an Emirates flight EK 649. The police have arrested several suspects over the possession of narcotics in the last 24 hours.
The Special Task Force has arrested a 34-year-old man with 4 kilograms of hash worth over 4 million rupees in Grand Pass. The narcotic had been recovered from the suspect's house. The STF had also seized an electric scale and 2 mobile phones from the possession of the suspect. A group has carried out a burglary at the Cooperative Rural Bank in Horana this morning. But the police said the burglars had not robbed the 2 safes at the bank containing gold and cash. Horana police are conducting further investigations.
The case against Minister Vimal Veeravansa for misusing 70 million rupees during his previous stint as a minister was taken up today.
Colombo High Court Judge Navaratna Marasinghe ordered the case to be taken up on the 17th of June. Minister Vimal Veeravansa appeared before the court when the case was taken up today. The Commission to investigate allegations of bribery and corruption had filed a case under the Section 23 of the Bribery Act regarding the misappropriation of over 75 million rupees in cash and property between the 1st of January 2010 and the 31st of December 2014.
The appeal court today ordered that the decision on granting bail to lawyer Hijaz Hizbullah would be announced next Monday.
The decision would be announced by the judge bench of Justices Menaka Vijay Sundara and Neil Iddavala. The Putlam High Court had recently rejected a bail application, citing it doesn't have the power to do so. President's counsel Romesh De Silva then filed a motion with the appeal court seeking his client's release on bail.
In more headline-making stories, the remains of 4 family members who were killed in a fatal collision have been brought to their residence. They were killed when their 3-wheel had collided with a train in Galle yesterday.
4 family members died in a collision involving a 3-wheeler and a train at the Ratgama-Rilaba railway crossing in Galle yesterday. The deceased were 46-year-old Kalinga Sunimal, his 48-year-old wife Lasika Kumari Mendes, his 85-year-old father Kalinga Jinadasa and 83-year-old mother-in-law Enis Hami. Their demise has left Sunimal's daughter, the only surviving member of the family. The railway signals that malfunctioned at the Ratgama-Rilaba railway crossing in the lead-up to the collision are yet to be fixed. Area residents say Sri Lanka Railways should bear responsibility for the incident. They point out that there are constant failures in the signals as well.
The signal works only sometimes. When it does not, we have to stop and see ourselves for any approaching train. This is a poor signal system. They have never fixed this. It is only after lives are lost the drivers honk horns to warn of any danger. We are requesting horns to be used at all crossings to avoid any similar incidents in the future.
The World Wetland Day is being marked today with a focus on the need for a call to take action. It comes at a time when countries such as Sri Lanka are facing a massive threat to ecosystems in the wake of several projects carried out under the name of development.
A wetland, by definition, is an ecosystem flooded by water. Rivers, marshes, lagoons, swamps are among those ecosystems that add color to the environment. Sri Lanka's unique rivers hold a prominent place among them. With a capacity of storing 1.5 million gallons of flood water, wetlands are crucial in controlling floods. These wetlands also play a pivotal role in the cultivation of paddy, which is a staple diet in Sri Lanka. The Ramsar Convention was signed on the 2nd of February 1971, recognizing the need to protect wetlands across the world. Sri Lanka became a party to the convention after signing it in 1991. The wetlands of Sri Lanka are divided into three categories, including inland natural freshwater wetlands, marine and saltwater wetlands, and man-made wetlands. Since signing the convention, 6 Ramsar wetland sites have been identified in Sri Lanka. This includes Bundala National Park, Anavilundava Ancient Cascading Tank System, the Madhuganga Estuary, Venkali Sanctuary, Kumana Wetland Cluster, and Vilpattu Wetland Cluster.
News overseas, a reported coup in the West African state of Guinea-Bissau has left many members of the security forces dead.
The country's president said the situation was under control, calling it a failed attack against democracy. Gunfire erupted near a government building yesterday in the capital Bissau, where the president was reportedly attending a cabinet meeting. Soldiers are said to have detained the president and his ministers. According to foreign media reports, unidentified heavily armed gunmen attacked the government palace while the president was meeting the prime minister.
Russia's President Vladimir Putin has accused the US of trying to draw his country into a war in Ukraine.
In his first significant comments on the crisis in several weeks, he said America's goal was to use a confrontation as a pretext to impose more sanctions on Russia. He also said the US was ignoring Russia's concerns about NATO alliance forces in Europe. Tension is high over a Russian troop buildup close to Ukraine's borders. Russia denies Western accusations that it is planning an invasion nearly 8 years after it annexed Ukraine's southern Crimea peninsula. Moscow in turn accuses the Ukrainian government of failing to implement an international deal to restore peace to the east, where at least 14,000 people have been killed and Russian-backed rebels control swathes of territory.
And that's a wrap of Lunchtime News here on TV1. Thank you for joining us. You can always log on to our website, that is www.newsfirst.lk, for all these stories and much more. Have yourself a great day ahead.